Hey guys, Ben Tannehill here. Well, now that Ben T. Looney and the gang have been put to rest, I think it's about time for the world to know the real me. I was born on October 14th, 1992 in Springfield, Illinois. I started out having very typical toddler years as I lived in a small urban neighborhood, and I stayed inside most of the time because there really wasn't any room for me to play outside. We had a big TV in the living room, and my earliest memories are watching Cartoon Network in that living room. On top of that, my bedroom had a little TV in it which had a VCR attached to it, and I would watch Disney movies on it before I went to bed. So, right from the start, I had connections with cartoons. So, in 1996, my parents decided that the neighborhood I was growing up in was crummy, so we moved to a quiet, small neighborhood which was surrounded by timber. It was the perfect place for a kid to grow up in because there were so many acres for me to run around and have fun. To this day, I'm still living in the same residence. I believe growing up in the area helped develop my love for nature, as so many animals walked by my house constantly. When it came to school, I was usually a pretty quiet kid. I would socialize with others, but I wouldn't make a habit out of it. I would mostly just sit there and let my overactive imaginations run wild. When I got home from school, I would plop myself in front of the TV and watch cartoons, and eventually, Godzilla movies, until I went to bed. One important thing I want to point out is Cartoon Network started to become big around the time I was growing up, so I would watch it evolve over the years. Back then, Cartoon Network was mostly a channel for cartoon fans, young and old. It would air programs that would talk about animation legends, and this marked the first time I started to hear names like Chuck Jones, Bill Hanna, Joe Barbera, and the man who would become my main influence, Tex Avery. I loved cartoons so much that I started to draw my favorite characters on paper, then cut them out and have them interact with each other. I even started to come up with my own characters and make my own adventures and scenarios, which is where my creative mind started to develop itself. Yes, it was obvious right from the start that animation was going to be my main interest in life, but something happened as soon as I got to middle school. I started to watch cartoons less and less, and it got to the point where I thought cartoons were just for kids, so I stopped watching them. I started to get interested in other things, like video games, movies, and may Tex Avery forgive me, reality shows. These became my interests for the next couple of years, and let me tell you, they were only fuel on the flames. See, in middle school, I started to get bullied and I didn't fit in with anybody. Even though I was getting away from cartoons, my interests still didn't blend with the interests of the other kids. The movies I was getting into were old, and I didn't have the right technology to play online games with the rest of the kids. I felt like it was the world against me, as the friends that I had in elementary school soon turned their backs on me. Even though I was usually a shy kid, it destroyed me that I didn't have any friends to talk to, so I got really depressed. The depression caused me to plan to commit suicide, but my school counselor heard of them and called my parents to come home early and stop me from going through with it. Looking back, I don't know how that counselor found out about what I said, but I'm thankful that she did, and I'm happy to be alive today. After that incident, I decided to live how I wanted to live, and I wasn't going to let anybody say otherwise. So, I went back to what I truly loved, cartoons. I began to appreciate them a lot more as I grew older, and I started to use my allowance money to buy DVDs of my favorite shows. I was living the good life, but life only got better. In Christmas of 2008, after years of begging my parents, they finally agreed to get DSL Internet, and I began to see the whole new world. I would mostly roam around YouTube watching videos, and it wasn't long before I discovered ranting videos. I would continue, but this topic is a story for another video. Anyway, in my sophomore year of high school, the musical was going to be Beauty and the Beast. Even though I never liked the idea of performing in front of a crowd, the huge Disney fan in me wasn't going to let me chicken out. So, I auditioned for the play and I got a chorus role. But it opened so many doors for me. I became friends with so many wonderful people who allowed me to be myself and didn't judge who I was. They all enjoyed my company, and I loved spending every moment with them. After that, I was in every play my school had until the end of my high school career. So now, I'm getting my way through community college, and I'll be heading to the Art Institute in Schaumburg, Illinois after I earn my associate's degree in art. At the Art Institute, I'll be studying their media arts and animation program for 2 years, where I'll earn my bachelor's degree in fine arts. There will be many doors open from that point. But every professor I talked to said that if I keep up the good work and stay optimistic, my dream of making my own cartoons will come true. So, there's a look at where I come from and where I'm going. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Ben Tannehill. See you later.
people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them.